between May 22nd and the time of James Holmes' arrest on July 20th at about 12:40 a.m., we're talking about 34 entries of text activity. Is that right? And I did provide numbers on the copy I showed you. You're
Yeah.
welcome to check my work on that.
Let's just look at one other thing here. Yes, that's correct, 34.
For outgoing text messages during that time frame, if you'll look at June 1st.
Yeah, earlier I was referring to the text message content records as far as what was being all inbound.
I see. So between July 10th and July 20th, there were no outgoing text messages.
Correct.
Although, if you look on July, okay, and then looking at June 1st, we've got one or two outgoing text messages to the same phone number, correct?
Yes, would you like me to read the details on that for you?
Let me just know if I've got the phone number correct. 970-443-9340.
That's correct.
And then we don't have another outgoing text message until July 8th. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the record reflects two outgoing texts, one at 8:54 p.m. and one at 9:17 p.m.
That's correct.
And both to the same number.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's that same number I read earlier, 970-443-9340.
That's correct.
Okay. Otherwise, the incoming text messages, particularly in the month of July, are either spam or the data alerts from Verizon.
That does appear to be the case, yes.
Okay, and a data alert would occur when there's an increased use of a device, is that right?
Yes, as I stated earlier, that alert could be data, it could be voice, that I can't definitively say what type of alert, only that it is a Verizon wireless alert.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness.
Yes.
I'm now going to approach with what's been marked as DTR1. And I've already shown the district attorney, and I don't believe they have any objection to its submission. Stick numbers on the back of the exhibit.
Okay.
Hand that to you. Now that's a call detail record for the target number 858-449-7348, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this call data record dates back to May 22nd, or provides the data between May 22nd and July 20th. Is that right?
That was the original request. It looks like the first call we show on what you've provided is May 27th.
Right. And that's a record that's provided by Verizon.
Yes.
Okay. And Judge, at this time, I'd ask for admission of defendants TR1, the call data from May 22nd through July 20th.
Is the information on this exhibit contained in Exhibit 1079 or no?
No, not exactly.
Okay, do the people have a position?
No objection.
All right, without objection, Exhibit D-TR-1 is admitted.
And the difference between the call data record contained in People's 1079 and what I've handed you as Defense Exhibit 1 is that what's contained in 1079 only dates back to July 20th.
Okay.
Does that sound right? And you're checking 1079?
Yes.
Ms. Spengler, I'm sorry, did I understand you correctly? Did you say that the difference is that the data record contained in People's Exhibit 1079 is that your exhibit is that what's contained in 1079 only dates back to July 20?
I meant to say June 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I showed June 22nd of 2012 on here.
Okay. So referring to the call data report, Defense Exhibit 1, again, this call data includes the phone activity, which can include the incoming and outgoing phone activity, right?
Yes.
Right. But that's not all. This also reflects when the user uses data services or web services through Verizon on their phone, correct?
Yes.
And that's reflected with a #777?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So this document contains more than just incoming and outgoing phone calls.
Yes.
And this document is 7 pages, and so obviously small chunk of that People's 1079 is contained in that call data report in 1079, right?
Yes.
And even within this call data, we don't see any activity on the phone at all between May 22nd and May 26th. Is that right?
No.
No activity at all between May 29th and June 2nd.
No.
No activity at all on June 4th,
No activity on June 4th.
June 8th through June 10th,
That's correct.
June 12th through June 15th,
That's correct.
June 17th,
That's correct.
June 19th through June 21st,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
June 19th through June 21st.
Yes, that's correct.
And then we see an increase of activity June 23rd.
Correct.
See no activity at all June 24th.
That's correct.
See an increase in activity on June 26th and June 27th.
Yes.
Significant increase on June 27th in particular and June 28th.
Yes, there's an increase.
And then no activity at all July 1st,
That's correct.
July 3rd, no activity at all,
That's correct.
July 7th through 8th, no activity at all,
That's correct.
July 10th, no activity at all.
That's correct.
And July 15th through the 16th, no activity at all.
That's correct.
And because this comes up a few times in the records, I did want to talk about out-of-state inbound calls reflecting twice within the records.
Yes.
You explained that earlier. So if we see an inbound call reflected at, let's say, 1:25 PM and 2:25 PM, and it's the same number, you're telling us that's the same phone call.
Yeah, it's usually going to be the 1 hour difference on an inbound call. You will see under the dial digit number field, though, on one of the lines a different number, and that's what we call the routing number, and it's just a temporary number assigned to complete the call on our network.
Okay. Okay. Your Honor, if I may have a moment.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Do you have any redirect, Mr. Edson?
Very briefly, if I may.
Yes.
Sir, you were asked some questions about, within the records, some of the data activity, specifically internet activity on the phone. You remember being asked about that?
Yes.
Would your records reflect any sort of data activity that someone uses on their phone from a public Wi-Fi network or a personal Wi-Fi network?
If they were connected through a Wi-Fi network, it should not reflect that as a record because the data would be being utilized through that Wi-Fi network.
What about, like with an iPhone, you're familiar with iPhones, correct?
Yes.
What about something like an iMessage through Apple products? Would that be recorded in Verizon records?
An iMessage would just be recorded as a data. It's not a text message because it goes through the data network.
Okay. So in other words, the web activity that you're referring to on the Verizon records, that's only through web activity that was conducted through the Verizon network. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And would not include any activity that may have been used on a different internet source, like a public Wi-Fi or a personal Wi-Fi at one's home?
Correct.
Okay. Just going to have one moment, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Is there any recross? No. All right, it looks like the jury may have one or more questions, so if you could wait for us, please. Thank you. Counsel, please approach. Sir, the jury has submitted some questions, and based on the rules of evidence and other applicable rules of law, I have concluded that these are appropriate, and so I'm going to ask you these questions now. The first question is, from what physical location was the 12:30 a.m. phone call made on July 20th, 2012, if you know from the records?
Let me go ahead and take a look at that. I know the cell site number was 324. What I'm doing is reviewing. There should be a cell site key in here that explains the actual address for that tower.
And you're reviewing Exhibit 1079, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. You know, I apologize. I don't see the actual key that tells the address. So, I mean, at this time, the only thing I could tell you was that was on cell site number 324.
Okay, the next question is, can you tell from the records if the call originated in Colorado?
Well, the switch that's called the network element name all the way left is Clinton MTX01, which is based off of the towers that we would have pulled. But again, I don't have the cell site key record to give you a definitive location on that, aside from telling you that it's number 324.
So let me ask the question again. The question is, can you tell from the records if the call originated in Colorado?
Because I don't know all the switches and cell towers offhand, I can't tell you that.
All right, the next question is, does data include email?
It could, yes. That's data.
Are there any follow-up questions, Mr. Edson? Yes.
No, thank you.
Any follow-up questions, Ms. Pengler? All right. Thank you, sir. May this witness be released from his subpoena, Mr. Edson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection, Ms. Pengler? All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you. I've left the documents up here as well.
Mr. Orman, call your next witness, please.
Kelly O'Connor, Your Honor.
Do you want to take back these exhibits, Mr. Orman, or put them on the top shelf there? Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I have you raise your right hand, please, so I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm on a penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names?
Kelly O'Connor, Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y, O'Connor, O-C-O-N-N-O-R.
Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Ma'am, I want to ask you about July of 2012. What was your job back then?
Director for Information Technology at University of Colorado Health.
Can you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what University of Colorado Health is, and if you can, just sort of explain how that might be different than University of Colorado Denver?
Of course, the University of Colorado Health is the health system, so the hospital system. University of Colorado Denver is the School of Medicine component.
Even though they're both government entities, would it sort of be like related corporations with separate structures?
We're affiliates, that's correct.
As your job of in charge of data at the hospital, would you consider yourself back then the records custodian for records relating to phone calls and similar issues at the hospital?
Correct.
Did you have access and oversee how all those records were kept?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you about the phone system in general at CU Hospital. Is it okay to call it CU Hospital?
University of Colorado Health, yeah.
All right. How about University Hospital?
That sounds good.
Okay, so at University Hospital, was there a main number?
Yes.
What was that number?
720-848-0000.
So let's say I wanted to call the hospital and like talk to someone in the cafeteria about the special at the hospital cafeteria. What number would I call?
You would call that, pardon me, that main number?
And if I wanted to call and talk to the trauma center, what number would I call?
You may call that main number.
So basically, any phone call to the hospital goes to that number.
Yes, unless they have a direct dial number, but typically people will call that main number.
Is it answered by a person or one of those phone tree things where, press 7 for the cafeteria?
If there is a hospital operator available, it'll be answered by a live person. If they're not, you'll have a recording saying, "1 moment, please."
And then what?
You'll hear music until a hospital operator comes on and get your call.
So there's always a hospital operator.
Absolutely.
Did the university hospital phone system that you oversaw back then keep records of incoming phone calls to that general number for the hospital?
Yes.
In what way did it keep records? Did it keep an audio recording of the records?
It keeps an audio recording if what we call ANI, the automatic number identifier, is passed along by the carrier. We also keep record of that.
Would you keep a record of the time a phone call was made?
Yes.
The length of the phone call?
Yes.
And the phone call, the number, if it's available, that called in?
Yes.
Did you look for any phone calls in your system from a particular California number, 858-449-7348, during the time period of July 19th through July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
When did you do that?
I believe it was on the 22nd.
Did you find any calls?
Yes.
And was that part of the business records of your entity?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach with what I've marked for identification as People's Exhibit 1093A and 1093B, and I have shown these to counsel.
Yes. For clarification purposes, ma'am, when you said on the 22nd, are you referring to July 22nd of 2012?
Yes, sir.
All right.
What is 1093A?
1093A is a CD of the audio recording that was obtained.
And is that an accurate record from the system maintained in the normal course of business by University Hospital?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because I pulled it, and it's on our system, and it's right here on the CD.
And 1093B, what is that?
That's the information that provided us the data of the number that called into our main number from our call accounting system.
And is that something that you pulled that was kept in an ordinary course of business as part of University Hospital's business?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of 1093A and B.
Is there any objection to what really is P-TR-1093A and P-TR-1093B?
No objection.
All right, without objection, both exhibits are admitted.
If we could please publish 1093B. And can we zoom in on that top part there with the information? Now, see there's a microphone up there, like a Phil Donahue type handheld microphone. And behind you is two little flagpoles that I taped together as a pointer. Could you please tell us what this record is and what it shows?
Yes, this information was provided from our call accounting system, and the call date range is the date that I put in order to pull the data,
Which is what?
7/19/12 to 7/20/12.
Okay, now at the top it says number dialed by UCH extension. What does that mean?
Well, I used a template. We had several templates, but I can manipulate the criteria that is put in there. So I manipulated the criteria to get the incoming dial number, but I did not change the name of the template.
So it really should have said number dialed to?
Correct.
Okay. So if you can tell us then, what is this information below the dates?
Here, I asked it to include any number that was the 858-449-7348, including incoming calls only for that number.
And then what does it show?
It shows that a call came in at 12:31 a.m. on 7/20/12. The Annie was this number here.
And what did you just say that number meant?
This is the incoming, this is the number that called, the incoming.
Like when you see a caller ID on your phone?
Correct.
Okay. Please continue.
The number of minutes, and with this system, it will only register if it is 0.8 seconds. So if somebody were to call and it was 2 seconds, it wouldn't have registered, so it had to have been 0.8 seconds, and it was no cost
What
to
does
the
that
hospital.
mean?
Typically, if I was doing something that was long distance related, it would say the cost, but typically incoming, we're not going to see that.
And then over just at the left, it says PBS extension. What does that mean?
That's that denotes the station that the hospital operator was using that evening.
Thank you. You can take your seat again and turn off the microphone. I want to ask you a couple questions about 1093A. Is that the entire phone call,
Yes,
start to finish?
yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I'd like to play 1093A.
You may.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
This is Dan. How may I help you?
I don't know if we got the whole thing. If we could, it's very short. If we could just play that again from start to finish so we make sure we get the whole thing.
Any objection, Mr. King?
Good evening, University of Florida Hospital. This is Dan. How may I help you?
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any cross-examination?
Good morning.
Ma'am, you said, excuse me, I should probably wait till I get behind the microphone here. You said that this is a general extension for University Hospital itself. Is that right?
It's the main number to University Hospital.
It's the switchboard number, right?
Correct.
And you said that that would be the number that people would call to contact anyone virtually at University Hospital unless you had the direct dial number.
That's correct.
Now, this call went through basically after midnight, is that right?
Correct.
I'm assuming that most of the folks at University Hospital, or a lot of them, those direct dial numbers may not be answered.
Correct.
If they're, outpatient services, for example, that would operate during normal business hours.
You would still be able to dial, but you would get a menu system, and you wouldn't get a live person. That's correct.
So in order to get a live person, you would have to call the switchboard number because there is a switchboard operator, a live human being, during the evening hours. Is that right?
They're staffed 24/7, and if somebody did call a number that was not staffed, so for example, an outpatient service, then the option that they're given after hours will get them to the hospital operator.
I see. And do you know whether or not the voice we heard on that recording was a live operator answering the phone, or whether it was a voice recording?
It was a live operator.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Orman?
Thank you. If the phone number from California had dialed any direct number at your hospital, would your search have picked that up?
Yes,
So this was the only phone call from that number for that time period?
that's correct.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any recross, Mr. King?
No.
And it doesn't look like the jury has any questions. May this witness be released from her subpoena.
Please, Your Honor.
Is there any objection? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
The people call Theodore Maples.
Good morning, sir. Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names.
Theodore Maples Jr., T-H-E-O-D-O-R-E, Maples, M-A-P-L-E-S. I'm a
Right.
junior.
Sorry, thank you. I'm going to ask you to pull the microphone closer to you so that everyone can hear you, okay?
Okay,
You can move the mic and just aim it
Okay.
right to your mouth.
all right.
All right, Ms. Pearson, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Maples.
Morning.
Mr. Maples, where do you live during the winter months?
In the winter months in San Angelo, Texas.
Do you come to Colorado for the summer months?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We come up here and we volunteer different places.
In the summer of 2012, were you spending the summer here in Colorado?
Yes, ma'am, at Briars Canyon shooting range,
Where,
Hot Sulphur Springs, near.
and, I'm sorry, and what did you do up there?
Well, we took care of the little campgrounds, and we also took care of the shooting range. We replaced the backboards and just generally done little repairs and watched over the range.
Was that a volunteer job?
It was volunteer, strictly volunteer.
Do you know who runs the Byers Canyon shooting range?
It's Colorado Division of Wildlife, or Parks and Wildlife now.
Is it a range that anybody can go to?
It's free range. Yes, ma'am, it's free range.
Is there much supervision at that kind of range?
Not much at all, little bit. I mean, we would drive in there periodically at different times and check the backboards and check things like the targets.
Did you see people who came to use the range?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Now, you said that the Byers Canyon Range, it's near Hot Sulphur Springs.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4742. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am. Off of Highway 40, Yeah.
Does this fairly and accurately appear to be a map that, of parts of Colorado?
Yes, ma'am. I think so.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibit 4742.
Any objection? No. All right, without objection, P-TR-4742 is admitted.
May I publish that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Could I have 4742 up, please? Mr. Maples, looking at this map, can you identify on this map roughly where Hot Sulphur Springs is?
Well, it's right up there where you, about the area there where you've got that, I guess that's a A, the little symbol there by the interstate, the Highway 40 highway sign.
And is
Yes,
Hot
40.
Sulphur Springs on Highway 40?
Yes, yes, ma'am. It's back to the east just a little bit, the little town Hot Sulphur Springs is. And
Is the Byers Canyon shooting range also on Highway 40?
yes, ma'am. It's, if you were going back to the west, it'd be on your right-hand side.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4830. Do you recognize what is in that photograph?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's the range we took care of during the summer of 2012.
Does this photograph fairly and accurately represent what the range looked like?
I think so.
Your Honor, may I move for the admittance of People's Exhibit 4830?
Any objection?
No.
Without objection, P-TR-4830 is admitted and may be published.
Could I have 4830 up, please? Now, Mr. Maples, in looking at this, I see Highway 40 and then I see some just sort of perpendicular lines off of that. Can you explain what we're looking at in this photograph?
Well, the viewing to the front far left is the pistol range. The next little area you see there is shotgun range, and then the next one is 22 range, and then the rest of them are rifle range. And one down at angle is a handicap range. It's a handicap range.
So if a person was at the range shooting, they would be shooting towards what is the top of the photograph?
They'd be shooting that direction, yes, ma'am.
And then this allows people with different kinds of firearms to go on different lines to shoot?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you were working at the range, would you monitor people or see the people who were shooting on the different lines?
We did at times, and if somebody was doing something wrong, we asked them to leave.
Do you recall at some point in the summer of 2012 a person coming to the range who looked different than the people you normally see at the range?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Can you describe what that person looked like?
The only thing I remember is the orange-red hair really set out.
What color skin did he have?
It was light complected, white.
And white?
Yeah, Caucasian.
Do you recall what kind of build he had?
I think just medium build.
But you recall the hair?
I recall the hair.
Do you recall when you first saw this person come to the range?
Yes, ma'am, I think so.
When was that?
Well, he was on the pistol range, and then he later moved, that same day, he moved to shotgun range.
Do you recall what month that was?
No, ma'am, I don't for sure.
When do you estimate that you first saw this person up there?
It was probably sometime in June, but I don't really, it's been so many years, I don't remember.
Do you recall whether it would be early June or late June?
No, ma'am, I don't.
The first time that you saw him, what drew your attention to noticing what lines he was on and where he was shooting?
I guess it was the red hair, the orange hair, orange-colored hair. You know, if he hadn't had it there, it'd just been like anybody else. But he said that really flagged us, to see that there.
Do you have any idea of how long the person with the red hair stayed on the range the first time that you saw him there?
No, ma'am, maybe a couple of hours or something like that, but could have been a little longer.
Did you ever see that person return to the range again?
Yes, a little while later, he'd come back out there.
Do you have any idea of how much later?
It's probably at least a couple of weeks. I don't know, a week or two. I'm not real sure.
When the person came back again, did they still have the red hair?
Yes, ma'am. Still had the red hair.
Do you recall where that person shot that day, or what kind of firearms? he
Shot at the pistol range, and then he moved down to rifle range.
Do you remember what kind of a firearm he was shooting at the rifle range?
Yes, it was like an AR-15, that style rifle.
When you saw the person at the shotgun range, do you recall, what kind of firearm that was?
It was like a tactical shotgun, or home defense one, that's a short barrel, a sawed-off shotgun.
Not the kind you would use to hunt with?
No, ma'am.
A really long-
Not for bird hunting or anything like that.
Did you ever speak with him?
I did not. My wife did.
Were you with your wife
Yes.
when you approached him?
Yes.
And what did he say?
You're asking what
What did the
person
defendant
said?
Yes, what did the person say?
I heard him say that.
Hold on.
Okay.
With that clarification, are you still objecting to hearsay?
Yes.
All right. Would counsel please approach? All right, the objection is sustained. Ms. Pearson, how many more questions do you have for this witness?
Just a few.
Just a few more? Okay.
Mr. Maples, without talking about what this person said, did you and your wife approach a person with orange hair on the range?
Yes, we did,
And where did you approach him? Where was he at the time?
on the rifle range.
Looking at this map up here, which end is the rifle range?
It'd be to the view in the front of, excuse me, it's the right hand, down the right hand. He was down toward the end of the range. I don't remember exactly which one.
Do you recall the second time that you saw the person with orange hair, how long he was at the range?
Probably at least a couple hours. I'm not too sure. We didn't stay around. We left.
Now, do you recall at some point talking to an FBI agent in July of 2012 about what you saw at the range?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And do you recall telling them that you believed you had first seen this person at the range somewhere either in the end of June or the 1st of July?
I think so.
Do you recall further telling them that the second time you saw him, you thought it was about a week later?
I think it was a week.
One moment, please. Well, that was bound to happen. One second. Thank you, Mr. Maples.
Wait, hold on, sir. Hold
Oh,
on just a second. There may be some questions by Mr. King. Mr. King, do you have any questions?
No, he can go. That's
And there are no questions by the jury. Okay, thank you, sir. May he be released from his subpoena, Ms. Pearson?
He may, Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
None.
Okay, thank you. All right, folks, it's 10 after 10, and so let's go ahead and take our morning break at this time. Let's take 20 minutes, please. Keep all of my admonitions in mind. They all apply during the break, and I'll see you back here at 10:30. Hey, Cheryl. The record should reflect that the jury has left the courtroom now. Everyone may be seated. Let's go on break. I'll see everyone back here at 10:30. Thank you. The court will be in recess.